to start it, you'll start. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. The meeting is set up to where you are automatically muted when you enter the meeting room. So at any point, you can either raise your hand or unmute yourself to stop us if you have any questions. But right now you're on mute. So we had quite a number of people register for this meeting. We're just going to wait a couple minutes to see how many other people join us.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Carol.
How you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. So I'll be waiting. I'm going to mute myself.
Great, thank you.
Hey Carol, loved your PSA.
Hi, from Treasure Coast Cultural Festival, Carol King.
Very nice. What's going on with the cultural festival? Are you setting something up for this year or next year?
This year, yes, on May 18th, we're going to be at the Med Florida Event Center.
Oh, very nice.
Yes, from 2 to 10 p.m.
Great.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for letting us know.
No problem, my pleasure.
So let's see, we currently have 14 participants on the meeting. Obviously, that's including us. We had about 60 people register, which was a large amount for this type of meeting. So that's very exciting. My name is Alex Tosca. I work for the city in neighborhood services. I have a couple colleagues on the line with me today that work on the Cdbg program, available for any questions if you have. And our special guest this evening is Mr. Corbett Alday. He works for Guardian Community Resource Management, and he is our consultant that is helping us put together our 5-year consolidated plan. So every 5 years, the city writes a plan of what they project using the Cdbg grant money on. Cdbg stands for Community Development Block Grant, and it's a program managed by the federal government through the Housing and Urban Development Department. So Mr. Alday put together a very nice survey for all citizens to fill out. We are going to start with a really brief PowerPoint presentation, and then Mr. Alday will go through the Cdbg survey to explain all the different aspects of it and kind of guide you for when you fill it out if you haven't already. Has anyone on the line already filled out the survey online?
I have not yet.
Okay, great. Yeah, so this is a good opportunity for you at this meeting to ask questions, and that will help you make better informed answers when you're responding to the survey. We like to collect as much information as possible from all our residents to take and to incorporate into our plans, because the more feedback we have, the better justified we are for making certain decisions for using the funding in the future. Obviously, staff collects feedback and analyzes what's going on in the community, how the census information is changing, what needs other departments have, either infrastructure or for public services. And we put forward a recommendation to City Council, and they are the final approvers. So they are the ones who give the final decision on exactly what is done based on our recommendations.
And you can even, at that final public hearing, you can even then put, if you have ideas, you can put them into the public record.
Great, yes, correct.
Even at that time.
Thank you, Mr. Alday. So has anyone ever, oh, Kimberly says she filled out the survey, great. So we'll give you some more information on why those particular topics were in the survey if you've already done it and you're curious to find out. But, you know, we like to advocate advocacy. So it's important for city council, for staff to get feedback from residents, not just for CDBG, but for all different kinds of things that the city is working on. And one of the best ways to do that, as Mr. Alday pointed out, is just going and submitting a public comment at a public city council meeting. So you can comment on a topic that is in the agenda for whatever city council meeting you go to or attend virtually. But you can also comment on other things as well that go officially into the record.
You can also email comments.
Correct.
We're
Now
gonna-
we've
we're gonna
yeah,
try
we've
everything.
got a bunch of things available virtually for people to participate. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that was it. I was just saying that you can, you know, they can comment today, they can comment in email, and they can come to the public hearing.
Yes. I will also show you on our website where you can submit those public comments too, if you haven't already.
Please fill out the surveys.
We actually have record numbers of surveys already filled out, Mr. Alday. I went and I checked, and we've got about 60 surveys filled out to date.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
that's very good. And there is a special function on our survey that if you try and fill it out twice from the same computer or location, it won't let you. So make sure in case you fill out the survey and you accidentally submit it prematurely, or if you didn't write something on there that you remembered later, you can always email us too, like Mr. Alday said. And we'll show you where to find that survey. So you can drop off surveys. The question Mr. Rivera has, the survey is on SurveyMonkey and it's on our website. I will, once I finish the few slides of the presentation and I hand it over to Mr. Alday to show you the survey, I will show you how to navigate to it. If you would like us to print you out a copy and pick it up from City Hall, we can make arrangements for that. And if you need to drop one off, you can just come to City Hall to the front desk and drop it off. Someone from our office can come and pick it up. You just say that you have to drop off a survey for neighborhood services.
You can also ask that it be emailed to you.
Yes, also.
You can get asked that it be emailed to you, fill it out, and then scan it and email it back.
Yes, that would be the best for me.
That might be
So-
simpler for some people.
As a follow-up after this meeting, I will email everyone a link to the survey and a PDF of the survey that you can print out and fill out on your own. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started so we can make sure that everyone gets back to their evening and their dinner in a timely manner. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And I'll just ask that Mr. Alday give me the thumbs up when he can see it.
I can see it.
Okay. All right. So really quickly, I want to just go very briefly into a few details about CDBG at the City of Port St. Lucie. And then Mr. Alday will move into more program and policy information as to how the CDBG program works and how we can potentially use it at the city And like we said, explaining better the survey topics and why those specific topics are in the survey. So CDBG stands for Community Development Block Grant. And what we are doing right now this summer is we are preparing our 2021 to 2026 CDBG consolidated plan. So we are conducting these public meetings in order to get more information for this 5-year plan. CDBG works in a way that the government gives us money based on a formula, and the formula calculates our allocation or how much money we're getting based on what they call low to moderate income census tract areas. So this data is from 2010 and 2015 estimates, and the census tracts that you see here highlighted in yellow, those are our official CDBG census tract areas where we are allowed to expend our funds. So we have 15 of them in the city right now, and we can do programs for citywide benefit for the entire city, like building a community center or making the community center more ADA accessible. Or we can do smaller programs that provide a specific area benefit to one of these 15 census tracts. So it's a little limited in that sense. We are currently waiting for census information because, as you know, we conducted the 2020 census and we were supposed to get the information back the beginning of the year. Then they said April, and now in April they said September. So they're having some delays with COVID and everything else that's going on. And we hope to be able to get that census data sooner than later because it's going to affect what kind of programming we can do for sure. So there's a slight possibility that we stay with these same 15 census tracts, and there's a higher probability that something is going to change. Maybe we'll have less, maybe we'll have more, we don't know. But average income is what they look at when they're determining these. And as you can see, census tract data and boundaries is very different than other maps that we use for other things, like the nice neighborhood map. So census tracts don't necessarily align with our neighborhood boundaries, and our neighborhood and our census tract boundaries do not necessarily align with our council districts. So we have to take all of this into consideration when we're planning. Here are some quick examples of what we've done in the past few years. The CDBG program is a strong program at the city of Port St. Lucie. We've been an entitlement community for a long time. Entitlement means that we receive these monies directly. And we've always had wonderful success with all of our projects. So here are some examples. The Lingate playground equipment was replaced in 2017, 2018. Lingate is a park there in the Lingate neighborhood off of Veterans Memorial Parkway. We were able to build this sidewalk in Canal Point, which is in the heart of the city, off of Southwest Oak Ridge Drive, just south of City Hall, next to our boat ramp and the Floresta roundabout. We also were able to install security cameras in Rivergate Park at Veterans Memorial Parkway. So you can see here a picture of those. This was in 2018-19. We also do a lot of park improvements like these. This would be considered a park improvement that benefits the entire city or the entire area. And some other projects that we've done are repair and rehabilitation for individual homeowners, septic to sewer conversions for individual homeowners, culvert improvements. Culverts are part of the water drainage system in the city that sometimes break when they get old. So we help repair those and make them more durable. We do some micro enterprise or small business education and assistance grants. We've done lift station improvements, parking lot lighting, park improvements, and a lot more. So we can do infrastructure projects, and we can also do public service projects, but there is a 15% public service cap, which means that we can only use 15% of our funding every single year to provide a public service, which is, Mr. Alday will probably get into this a little bit more. I'll let him get into the more technical details of that, but it's usually associated with providing some kind of social service or social service program through a nonprofit. And lastly, what's next? So today we're talking about public input, public meetings, and our survey. We're collecting data and preparing. We're waiting for the new census information, as I mentioned, and then we will do analysis. We will take and compile documentation of past projects and of current community needs and build a new consolidated plan for the next 5 years. If you put forward an idea and it's something that's feasible and that follows the requirements of HUD, and we can get it into the consolidated plan and city council approves it, it does not necessarily mean that we'll be able to fund it right away. It might be something that gets funded later on down the road. So we have to, just because we do the 5-year plan, we still have to do yearly action plans. So this August, we're bringing forward our 5-year plan, but it's the annual action plan that really details exactly what project we're going to be able to fund and when. And so we do those every single year. It's good that we receive as much feedback as we can right now, so that we can make sure it's in the plan and we can potentially fund it in the future if extra funding comes around, or if we're looking to leverage other grant money. So don't get discouraged if something that you want to happen doesn't happen right away. It's good that we collect all of that data and make sure that it's on our radar for the future too.
The one thing I would add to that is that the first year actual annual action plan will be part of the 5-year consolidated plan. So the process is parallel. So while we're taking input on the overall plan and the kinds of things we would like to focus on, we can also take input on what we can spend money on next year in 2022.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Alday. So I'll take a minute right here to just plug our 60th birthday bash. The city is turning 60 this year, 60 years of being incorporated. We have a birthday celebration scheduled next week. So if you can make it, we'd love to see you all there at the Mid-Florida Event Center. This is our website. If you, whatever page you're on, if you scroll down to the bottom where it says calendar, you can go to the calendar and look up tonight's meeting or any other events and be connected to the web pages that provide more information. Sorry if I'm scrolling too fast here. Under community programs, which is under neighborhood services is a department under the departments list. You will find a page dedicated to community development block grant. And right here at the top of the page, it gives you information about the 2 meetings that we conducted and the survey. So there's a link to the survey here, and you can click on it and go straight to it. And there's also a link in the calendar invite that is located on the calendar event on the city's main calendar page. I also said that I was going to show you agendas and meetings. It's just taking a minute to open. But if you go to right next to that calendar button on the bottom of any page, there's an agendas and meetings button. If you go here, the very first thing that you can do is submit a public records request. So you can ask for information, or you can go into watch PSL TV online. You can find previous meeting documents over there on the other side. But over here, this tells you how to watch our city council meetings. And it also tells you how to submit public comments to be heard. You can comment on agenda items by clicking on this button here, and you can comment on non-agenda items by clicking on that one there. You can also go physically to the meeting as well, as long as you respect the rules that they have in place at City Hall. And there are different ways to watch. You can watch on cable, you can watch online, and you can also watch on Facebook. So if you do watch on Facebook, there is another way that you can email comments as well. But if anybody needs assistance, so submitting a public comment either to City Council or to us, just reach out to me or anybody in Neighborhood Services and we'll help you. So this is the actual survey. When you click on the button, it takes you to SurveyMonkey, and you'll see here at the top, City of Port St. Lucie 2021 Community Development Block Grant Survey. And now I will officially give the floor to Mr. Alday so he can tell you a little bit more about the survey.
Thank you very much. Corbett Alday with Guardian Community Resource Management Offices, Dade City, for the record, and I'm working out of my house office today. Excuse me. What we have is a detailed survey of all the types of CDBG, literally all of the types of CDBG services that could be picked to put in the consolidated plan to say that they are priorities, and then also could be put into the first year's annual action plan where we actually spend some money on those activities. The next meeting, which we haven't discussed yet, will probably be a staff meeting to go through the surveys and strategize. That will also be a public meeting, but it'll be staff sitting around a table going through the surveys and digesting what the public has said they would like to see. So with that, I'll go through these. These first activities are what we call public services. There is a 15% cap on public services. The city gets about $1 million a year of what we call CDBG funds, and about 15% of those funds can be spent on supporting services, youth activities such as after-school services, health services, such as clinics, free clinics, food, clothing, basic needs. One of the things during COVID that has come up is assisting with rent, mortgage, utility bills, those kinds of things. Mental health services, that's mental health counseling for LMI. In most instances with social services, we're talking about clients who are what we call presumed low and moderate income. CDBG, Community Development Block Grant funds have to primarily benefit low and moderate income citizens. We can spend some money on slum and blight. We can spend some money on emergency things like when a disaster is declared, but 70% of the money has to be spent to benefit low and moderate income persons. And for example, people, senior services, people on SSI would be presumed to be income eligible as getting services from a senior services center. We can do child care services, free legal services, arts and cultural programming. That one's a little bit more difficult. You have to show an LMI benefit. You may have to be income qualified, some students or something if you're promoting an arts and cultural program. Anti-crime activities, like security lighting and those kind of things. And funding the neighborhood watch, and those are anti-crime activities. Transportation services would be like a busing for handicap, helping them go from home to work or school, for example. Any questions? This is a public input for the citizens input meeting, so you are allowed to interrupt at any time and ask questions. You want to go on the next?
So far, I don't see any questions in the chat. Oh, Mr. Humberto, do you have a question? You have to unmute your microphone. So
Sorry, okay.
there you go.
Regarding the anti-crime monies available, in most cities to address the complex and persistent violence that has been dealt with in a lot of cities is the gun detection or shot detection devices that are installed in some cities. Is that something that can be looked at or addressed? Thank you.
Gun detection technical equipment would have to be at a facility where we can prove LMI benefit. So what would it be? What kind of facility are you thinking?
I'm thinking in terms of the gunshot detection technology that is installed in outside and the light poles and things of that nature, where if a gunshot is heard, it helps police respond quicker in case of a violent act.
That would fall under anti-crime activities.
But would that only be addressed to a low-income area with a crime, or can it be the CDB grant be eligible for a higher area income area?
It would need to be a low and moderate income area.
Okay, thank you.
Or Mr. Alday, if say, for example, we wanted to make crime prevention or crime response improvements to city facilities, for example, would that, like the community center or the Mid-Florida Event Center, would that be considered a city benefit because it's at a large scale public place that provides a citywide limit, or would it still have to be within one of the census tracts?
It would have to be within one of the census tracts.
So
or you can income survey the neighborhood. You can income survey the neighborhood.
Yeah, which is kind of difficult. But the good thing is that our Mid-Florida Event Center is within one of the census tracts. Our city hall isn't. But you never know. I think we're going to definitely look into that and maybe talking to the police department to see if they have any ideas or programs that they're looking to fund. And there are more grants out there that aren't just the CDBG program. So I think that our staff and our police chief and our city manager and everyone is going to be very interested in hearing different public input that our residents provide on the CDBG program that might not necessarily be 100% applicable to CDBG, but we can take it into consideration when we explore other grant opportunities.
Thank you. I was thinking also in terms of in my community where I live in Port St. Lucie, I was looking at your PowerPoint, and it's not considered a low income area in St. James, but it's close to one of the areas, and maybe since so many seniors live in this community, a senior center or a senior community center is something that we would, in this community, would likely or would mostly appreciate. In that 2 area, number 2, in yellow.
This is the area here, Mr. Alday, off of St. James. So we do have a tract that borders St. James. It doesn't cover the whole neighborhood. This neighborhood is called St. Lucie North, but it does cover a portion of it. I know that this has come up often in different discussions, but a senior center is always something that is appreciated in a lot of communities. So we will take that into consideration. I know that we've developed the newest city park is up here in this area, in the northern part of Torino. And there are some parks and some city property over there. So maybe we can gauge interest and see if that's something feasible for the future. Thank you.
Is it possible that CDBG funds could be used to leverage, or if you're able to get other funds to make this happen across the city, these funds might be able to be used for the implementation in those low and moderate income areas, correct?
Yes, your CDBG funds, when they come to the city, they lose their federal identity.
Okay.
So they don't, the prohibition against leveraging goes away. So there's nothing stopping the city from taking $500,000 of CDBG and $500,000 of EDA or jobs growth and doing a master sewer lift station out to a business that's going to create 100 jobs. Okay. So there is an opportunity for leveraging. And as far as a senior center, sometimes you can get creative. You're close to an area that's income qualified, so you look for a place inside your income qualified area for a senior center, knowing full well that the people around it that can drive, where it's driving within driving distance, can use it. So.
Should I move on to the next, the special needs?
Yes, please.
Mm-hmm.
Special needs are a mix of mostly services again. We're talking about neglected, abused children services, your nonprofits, your homeless shelters, substance abuse disorder services, domestic violence services, those for facilities for disabled persons. Those can be infrastructure, those can be ramps, those can be ADA sidewalks. But services would still be under the 15% cap of services, these types of services. HIV, AIDS type services, veteran services, and immigration services. Again, there's a 15% cap on all the types of services that you can do. And what would happen is the city would say, we want to focus on ADA benefit, ADA accessibility, or we want to focus on homelessness. And they would run an RFP and then invite all the nonprofits to submit their projects to get the 15%, $150,000. This would be after the action plan and the consolidated plan are accepted. if that makes sense. Public community facilities needs, these are general facilities that sort of benefit an area, okay? An area that needs to be low and moderate income. So parks and recreation facilities, the city has done those. Healthcare facilities, again, that would be for your free clinics and that kind of thing. Youth centers, that's usually going to be your after school programs. Helping working parents. Community centers, we talked about that. Senior centers, absolutely, that's an eligible project. Child care facilities, public libraries, and fire stations. None of these fall under that 8% cap. These are facilities. So if we wanted to spend the rest of the, I mean, in theory, you could spend the rest of the $1 million on, you know, a fire station in an LMI neighborhood or a senior center.
So the outside of that 15% cap, when you say we can spend the rest on a facility, it would have to be kind of brick and mortar or construction or building something. We wouldn't necessarily be able to fund a program that facility runs,
Right.
because then that would be
Right.
considered a service.
These are not programs. We're talking about actually building or rehabilitating a building, a facility, or providing infrastructure, parking, water, sewer, electricity, broadband, and so on.
A couple examples of that we've done in the past at the city is the PAL building for the police and sheriffs to use for educating youth over off of US 1. And we also built our community garden program over at the Civic Center with CDBG funds as well.
We can go on if there's no questions. We can go on.
There is one question in the chat, sorry.
Oh,
I'm just going to ask for some clarification, because they're talking about potentially becoming two separate entities, St. Lucie West and Port St. Lucie, to have funds to address a larger area. I think that's a little complicated. And even if St. Lucie West were to break off and some way create its own city, which I think would be very difficult and lengthy process. Still, the actual procedure for getting these funds from the federal government is really based on a formula of average income in an area, and most of the time, our Western communities have not qualified for that. But that's a little bit more complicated question that we can maybe do on a sidebar. I want to save time and go through the rest of the survey here with Mr. Alday, but thank you for putting that forward.
Housing needs. Now, where we're talking about a senior center, we're talking about a public facility where the area, the neighborhood has to be in a census block that is predominantly LMI, at least 51% LMI. With housing, we're talking about direct benefit. So the housing recipient or the housing beneficiary has to be income certified to be LMI. They actually go through a lengthy process of income qualification, you know, looking at their bank statements, looking at their tax returns, looking at their payroll, and looking at their assets and income qualifying them to prove that they are of a low to moderate income. This applies to homeowner rehabilitation programs. I think the city has done some of that. Matching that with SHIP, your state housing initiative program, to do owner occupied homeowner rehabilitation, first time home buyer programs, like down payment assistance, senior housing, that could be infrastructure. We can't build new houses with CDBG, but we could build infrastructure for a senior housing, or we could rehabilitate a facility. Affordable rental housing, again, you're looking at either rehabbing a facility or building infrastructure like parking and water and sewer and those kind of things for a rental housing project. Homeowner housing, again, would be, support buying down the price of the house or down payment assistance with a lien. You would have a lien on the house for the amount of CDBG that would be forgiven over time. Housing homes with persons with disabilities, we can always incorporate that into a housing rehab program because of limited mobility, persons with limited mobility, needing a ramp, needing bathroom conversions. Rehabilitation of rental housing, including public housing, is eligible. That all people who, you got to have 51% LMI people living in the facility, using the facility. Fair housing services, it actually falls under services, and you could have a nonprofit that does fair housing training in your community, for example. Energy efficiency is more like your green improvements, greening up your house to cut electrical cost. And then lead-based paint, we always have to, with any rehab program, any house we touch, we have to look at the dates, the age of the building, and see if it might have lead-based paint. And if it's old enough, we have to test for it and possibly mitigate lead-based paint. Any questions on housing?
I'm answering a question in the chat, so we can move on. I'll address it in the chat. It was about if you do get a grant, what are the restrictions? You kind of already mentioned that, a lien on the home and it gets forgiven over time. But you can go ahead.
Okay, so businesses is yet another way that we provide LMI benefit is to jobs. So we had the public facilities where the area that they're in has to be LMI. We had the housing where the beneficiary in the house has to be LMI. And business needs, we need jobs that are LMI. And by that, we mean pre-employment income. So if we were providing job creation and retention, each job that's trained is a beneficiary, and they have to be low and moderate income, 51% of them. Employment training would be the same thing. Startup business assistance could be financing. That can be pretty tricky with CDBG. There's usually better options like SBA. Commercial industrial facility rehabilitation. Again, you're putting money into their buildings, so got to be careful. If you put money into a building and then you rent it to a business, you're creating program income. Program income is basically you took CDBG dollars, you put it into a facility, and now you're generating income from that. And program income really is something we want to avoid if we can. And small business loans likewise. But we can do things like water and sewer and roads, traffic lights, turn lanes, rehabilitation of parking lots, stormwater. Most of the time what we do with CDBG and businesses is infrastructure for jobs. And then they have to create a certain number of jobs for the CDBG. And I believe it's $35,000 of CDBG per job created. Other than that, the most common thing that we see is job creation, job retention services, your career source type of facility. Any questions on business assistance?
Well, Mr. Alday, we have a quick question about housing assistance from the previous section. Can funds be used for down payment assistance for Habitat for Humanity homes?
Well, they can be used for down payment assistance, and I know of no reason why they could not be.
So
But I don't know the answer to that question. I would have to ask.
So the city currently is not running a down payment assistance program. We had one open in the past. It is a tedious program. It requires a lot of income qualification and all of that. The way we do our repair and rehabilitation program, our staff is only a certain small number. So we have to make sure that whatever programs we run internally, we have the proper amount of staff to be able to process the application. So if we decided that we wanted to allocate a certain amount of money to down pay assistance, but wanted another organization to run the program for us, say for example, Habitat, would we go out to RFP for that?
You could use people like us, professionals. You could do an RFP for professional services, or you could do an RFP for nonprofits. Either way, people do it both ways.
So would Habitat be able to bid on an RFP like that for a down pay assistance program and only run the program with Habitat homes, or would they have to be able to open it up to anybody who qualifies in the city?
Just like anything else with CDBG, they'd have to open it up to anybody and everybody and rank them and qualify them. So it probably would not work with just being Habitat for Humanity, because they couldn't limit it to their projects.
Okay, thank you.
Now, you could hire someone like us to do it, and then we're professionals. We don't have any investment in housing, building housing. So they could come to us and apply for all of their houses, for example, if we were doing the income qualification.
So another potential way that we could work something like that is if the city wanted to run a down payment assistance program, they would open it up and have someone bid to manage it, and a company would, or an organization would manage it, and Habitat could work directly with whoever was managing the down pay assistance to make sure that they referred their clients to them at the proper time to be able to work and get that down payment assistance for their clients as well.
Yes. You would want to work parallel with them so that when as they're getting an applicant, that we're getting the applicant information as well at the same time, because that speeds the process up greatly. It's just a coordination thing.
Thank you. Yeah. So what's next? Infrastructure needs. This is a biggie.
This one tends to be your most expensive type of projects, and you need a neighborhood that's LMI, or you need jobs. As we described earlier, accessibility, that's ADA accessibility, but it could also be traffic, traffic light, traffic turn signals, rebuilding across lanes, street improvements, could be widening the street, could be making a DOT turn lane, Could be drainage improvements over an area where we need new culverts, new clean the ditches, put in a stormwater, buy some lots and put in a stormwater pond. Sidewalk improvements, that's pretty straightforward. And again, it needs to be in an LMI area. Some of these could be slum and blight, but you have to be careful about how much money you spend on them, because 70% of your money has to go to LMI, low and moderate income families benefit. Water and sewer, the fast one, that's a big one. A lot of communities want to see people get off of septics and wells and get on water and sewer. And that can be a neighborhood project as well. This is, I did want to add one thing to that last list, broadband. Infrastructure needs does include broadband. I don't have it on the survey, so you'll need to put it in under other if you want to check it off as something you want to see done. And when we say broadband, we're actually doing the same thing that we would be doing with water and sewer. We'd be running the cable in front of the houses. And this is just these are just the miscellaneous activities that don't really have a place in the rest of the survey. Parking facilities, trash and debris removal, graffiti removal. And we have here at the end of the survey, if you would please fill out, we do have to do an analysis of impediments to fair housing. So we do ask you to please fill out these questions about fair housing to help us out with our analysis. And that's all I have. I'm here for questions.
Thank you all. I know we've got some, I'm going to stop sharing right now. We've got some reaction buttons on the bottom of the screen. So click a thumbs up or a clap if you think that you live in one of the areas that qualify for CDBG funding. Quick little fun thing. Okay, what about, has anyone ever worked with an organization or on a project that has dealt with CDBG funding or has received any CDBG funding? There we go. We got a thumbs up from Humberto. Thank you. Yeah, so CDBG is one of the biggest federal programs. We've had a lot of success with it. In the past, we plan to continue to use the funds. It's not easy for us to sit down and do the analysis around the table because there are so many possible things that you can do with this funding. And, we wish we could do everything, but we're limited because we only receive about $1 million a year, like Mr. Alday said. And a lot of the infrastructure projects are really expensive. Just to give you an idea, sidewalks is a huge thing in the city of Port St. Lucie. A lot of people love them, want them, advocate for them. We have a sidewalk master plan that we work diligently on, trying to get as many sidewalks as possible in the community. But pop quiz, how much do you think 1 mile of sidewalk costs? Deborah, I saw you raise your hand. You can unmute yourself and answer if you want, or I can.
$1 million a mile, isn't it?
Good job. Close. It can be anywhere between 700, 800,000, but give or take. Between engineering and planning and Florida Department of Transportation standards and all of that. So it's not easy. It's not easy because one mile of sidewalk is as far as we can get with some of our CDBG money. So we look to leverage funding and do as much as we can. And we try to make sure that, you know, projects are evenly distributed around the city. So like I said, we appreciate all feedback. I will follow up with everyone tomorrow with an email with the link to the survey and a PDF of the survey. If you need a copy, a hard copy, just let us know and we'll get that for you. I appreciate everyone joining us. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Alday. We look forward to providing the draft consolidated plan this summer. So be on the lookout for that.
All right.
Have a good
Thank you
night,
very much.
everyone.
Have a good one.
Thank you, Deborah, for answering the pop quiz question. Have a good night.